and I'm really excited for this conversation. I really don't have an agenda, but I've been tuned into you and really appreciate your sharing, your heartfelt, to the point, just direct sharing in the social media world. I think that I'd like to unpack some of the essence of what you're shooting for, because I know that a sentence here and a sentence there, it will spark curiosity, and it certainly has in me. And I think that there's so much more to uncover. So I thought that I actually took a little snapshot of one of your recent posts that spoke to me, and I'll share it on the screen.
Okay.
Um, this one. Oh, now I'm having a hard time reading it. I can't tell you that being true to yourself, standing for freedom and equality as opposed to political correctness, plus bringing to light the common human tendency of inflicting harm on the planet, animals, and others for personal benefit, will be easy. It won't. You'll face vast backlash from those not yet capable of being true to themselves. But I can tell you that not being true to yourself will be, by far, your greatest regret of a lifetime. And I should know. I'm still making up for about 30 years of BSing myself. So these are your words,
Mhm.
G.
Yeah.
Would you like to elaborate?
Oh, let's see. Uh, um, I have three children, and I think my oldest son is not much younger than you, probably, buddy. But and if I had to say what would be my greatest wish for my children, it would simply be that they remain true to themselves, to their heart, to who they are. And that's really what that post, and obviously that's just not my, I'm just using my children as the examples because obviously my children are very important to me. And um but the same would go for you. That would be my greatest hope or wish or desire for you, for your wife, um, for anyone. And that's really what I was saying there. Simply being true to yourself. And we could talk about what that means. I'm happy to do that. But I think everyone will have a little bit of a different definition of what being true to themselves is, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that post pretty much summed that up. And then it talked and it spoke to my own experience of not being true to myself.
Yeah.
And I said 30 years because I thought about it when I wrote that. I said, okay, let's think about the years. And I said, well, I think it kind of veered off course at around age 10, and then it veered back on course at about age 40. So yes, that's 30, 30 years of not being true to myself. And I have described that as I kind of concealed my true self with sports or being a macho guy or some nonsense like that, until I didn't anymore. Um,
Well, I
yeah,
know
so
that this where we are here and now is me being true to myself. Listening to that kind of bubbling up inspiration, I guess you might call it. And I also feel like there is this tendency for me, and I witness it in others as well, to kind of suppress the true self, because in this world that we're in right now, and in these kind of social tension climate that we're in right now, we want to be careful and not kind of hurt each other's feelings, and kind of be super polite and correct. And to some degree, I feel like I certainly want to be nice, but at the same time I want to prioritize my truth. I don't want to prioritize being nice. So I'm coming up against this difficult thing where I feel like, I'm sharing my truth, making the posts in social media, for example, and it's ruffling
Mhm.
people's feathers. And I guess you might say like losing followers, which I don't, I don't care. I don't care about like that sort of thing, but I do care about offending people. What's your how do you how do you weigh that in and factor that in? Sharing your truth, but not being offensive, which is maybe impossible in 2021.
I think it comes down to this. I think that, and I'm not saying that everyone will take it this way, but I think if what we put out there, whether in our in a post, in an article, in a book, in a video, in a short snippet, whatever, um, remains free of blame, and I'm saying that knowing that sometimes people will mistake criticism for blame. They're not the same thing, in my opinion. So if we stay free of blame, it's that guy's fault. It's that woman's fault. It's their fault. It's even my fault. If we stay free of blame, then I think criticism, even judgment, will play a very valuable role in the shedding of belief or getting closer and closer to who we are. So I think it all comes down to that thing, blame. So I put out a post today, for example, about Dr. Anthony Fauci. I vehemently disagree with Anthony Fauci. I don't know of anything I agree with this man about. I think his lack of following the science has been very detrimental to America or to the world. Okay. Again, my opinion. However, that is a criticism I can promise you free from blame. I am not blaming him. That is a misunderstanding to blame him. It's his fault. He's at fault. He's the one. He's done it. No, he's made a mistake, in my opinion. The mistake should be called out for what it is. Yet we must stay free of vindictiveness and blame. So criticism free from blame is what I would call constructive criticism.
What I also hear you saying, and filtering in through my understanding, is like we're picking apart the message from the messenger, and we're kind of being critical of the message, but recognizing that the messenger is a divine cut of the same cloth that we are, or the part of the same ocean that we are, as you like to say.
Yeah, that it's interesting. I get what you're saying, but it doesn't quite. It's not quite what I'm saying. But I don't. I have to think about it more to kind of figure out why it's not quite. But I don't think that that's far off. I think that yes, the second part about what you said is right on. In other words, it's the knowing that all things, including a person, are simply modulations of ourselves. So knowing that, it would be preposterous to blame. There really is nothing in truth to blame. So that is where we kind of get off course. But again, I think for the purpose of this discussion where we're at right now, and the question you asked, I think, and again, I think people will take it just by our own conditioning that criticism is bad or judgment's bad. That's, don't criticize, set a good example. Well, if we don't criticize, let's say leaders or whatever, then they go unchecked,
Mhm.
and dogma filters out, and that that that's in the so-called material world. That's simply not okay. So I think it's vital that we call out the lies. We do our best, however, to not blame the liar.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, this obviously, like, it gets tricky because the lies that we're being critical of and calling out, people have I've heard this kind of saying a lot that, like, facts don't care about your feelings. I think Ben Shapiro, I think oddly enough, I think was one of the first people accredited to saying this like catchy phrase, facts don't care about your feelings.
Mm.
And in our world today, it's so sticky separating facts and feelings. And like it's almost like facts, people make facts their feelings and feel so connected with their opinion. So like when you're calling out and being critical of a lie, um, it's gonna be offensive. Like there's no way around that, right?
Well, in a world, in a so-called world of separation, in a so-called world where people are convinced that material objects are separate from them, that people are each separate entities. In that materialistic paradigm, anytime you question it or you call it out for the lie that it is, and we'll talk about that in a second, then those who have been brought up in the materialistic paradigm, those who are convinced that they are each separate entities and have been convinced that 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 being they've been trained to be a separate person is all there is, you will get kickback. The ego, so to speak, will kick back anytime you speak out against, so-called against separation, point out the lie. Ultimately, that's the lie that we're pointing out.
Yeah.
Ultimately, when even when it comes to our current year-long situation that we're stuck in, the lie is simply that there is no external enemy. There cannot be an external enemy out to get us, a la a virus. It's simply impossible. It's
Yeah.
impossible, and that's that in our calling that out will be preposterous to people. That they will think you're irresponsible. You don't value life. You want to kill people. You have a lot of followers, Garret. You put that out, it's gonna be on you. My brother, who's a lawyer, told me you can't say those things. So fuck that. I can say it
Hmm.
because there's nothing. If I don't say it, I'm not being true to myself. And and when you call out the lie of separation, duality or materialism, all the same thing, the ego will kick back with vengeance.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying, I guess, my mind goes to the kind of the superficial lies, the personal lies, that are, the lies and the corruption of the science or this or that. But what you're pointing at is the deeper fundamental lie that we're all caught in. So yeah, I'd love to, and I think this is obviously why I want to, have these conversations and, you know, get to that place of understanding the deeper lie that we're all trapped in to some degree. The lie of separation, like you say, and how kind of, seeing through that delusion is where the answers and where the peace and where the unity and connection all ultimately comes from. So yeah, tell me about the tell me about this big lie of separation, and how we are so stuck in it.
Well, first, and I apologize if I said this, separation is not in and of itself a lie, so to speak. It taking separation to be true would be the mistake or the belief or the so-called lie. So we see separation. So right now I'm looking at a computer and I see your picture and I see my picture and I see some separate words on the top. So I see separate things. However, if I went to touch the screen of the computer, all things would be actually made of the computer. So the appearance that you're a separate box and I'm a separate box is there. So it's kind of a real illusion. It's an illusion, but it's a real illusion. It's an actual mirage. But if I go to verify it as separation, that's not true. So separation is an appearance, not an actuality, not a truth. And we have taken the appearance of separation to mean things are separate. And that is the basis for name a calamity. That so-called mistake would be the basis for any calamity, including the calamity of COVID-19, including that. So any time we take the appearance of separation, of duality, there is me, and there is a world of separation outside of me. We take that to be a fact, a truth. We are in the lie and we're in for a rocky road. Now, how do I know that what I'm saying is accurate? Well, I gave you one metaphor with the computer. All things are made of the screen. It's very obvious and almost ridiculous to point it out, but we overlook that in having this conversation. We take these boxes to be actual separate things when in fact it's all the screen. So as I look at, I have a window behind the computer, and in the distance I see another building, an old house like this one that was turned into an office building here in Morristown. And I see cars and I see another building in the distance and a blue sky with some cloud. Now, these objects appear like they're outside of me. But the question I must ask myself is that true? Is that true? And if I really explore that deeply and deeply and more deeply, I will come up with the very fact that those objects cannot appear in my experience without me. If there's no me, I know nothing of those objects. I was taught that if there's no me, those objects are still there. I've been taught that. But I know nothing of that. I only know those objects with me, the presence of me. So then you must ask yourself, are those objects separate from me? No, because no me, I know nothing of these objects. So then you must ask yourself, are those objects appearing outside of me or within me? And I would say a better description of what's happening is those objects are simply rising and falling within me. Or right now, I'm looking at the inside of my own mind. Everything I see is the inside of my own mind. And in my exploration over the past, since I was 40, as I said, I have come to discover that this world being a reflection of the inside of my own mind, not outside of me, is a far better depiction of reality than this is outside, inside out. So there is no inside, there is no outside, but the way we say it is, this is happening within me, made of me, known by me.
So, how does this relate to our current climate of craziness in terms of how do you see this relating to fighting a contagious element outside of ourselves, which you know I'm right there with you. I'm just kind of prodding to understand the application maybe of taking this understanding of essentially we're all one, to simplify, we're all one with all beings and all of our other things that we're experiencing. We're one with it, we're creating it, and we're in that. So obviously that would mean that we're also one with the alleged virus. We're one with Anthony Fauci. We're made of the same stuff. We're rising and falling in the same collective universe. So then what? If that's the case, then what do we do with that? What do we do with that understanding?
Well, first of all, we want to we want to really be clear about what we're saying before we jump to there. So, and I don't, you know, we want to be really clear about what we're saying. So, first of all, we're not saying that, and just make sure this lines up with you. If it doesn't make sense to you, then just stop me. But um, we're not creating anything. There would have to be two separate actual separation for us to create something. So in my opinion, the better way to say it is you can say simply that life is unfolding within us as it will, and there's nothing we're going to do about that. We're not creating it. There's no creator. You can't find, it's a belief and part of a major religious belief system that there is something greater than ourselves, or a creator separate from us that's created us. We know nothing of that if you really look at your experience.
No direct experience of a creator.
Well, even if I write a book, I could say, okay, I created this book, but in truth, that book would have to be separate, be able to be a separate. Let me find a book. This book is different. This book would have to be able to exist outside of the computer or outside of me, without me, for me to say, here's the book I created. This book is simply a modulation within me, made of me. Now we can say we wrote the book. I mean, it's fine. Mm-hmm. But so no one's doing anything. There's the appearance within me of things happening, but that's like a dream. I go to sleep at night, and within my own mind, a lot stuff goes on, but I am not making any of that happen. It's happening, and I would argue that that's what's happening now.
Yeah. So I guess you're calling out the word that we're creating our experience.
It's very important because we don't want because in order to not blame, we have to understand that Fauci or Bill Gates or Trump or Biden or I don't know, Ramana Maharshi, they're not doing any of this. So let's just be clear about that. So the application you're speaking about, however, can go back. You can trace what Jesus said of be in the world, but not of the world. And this is an understanding in my work with athletes and actors that we've taken, that they've taken to heart. And what I'm about to say really built my career in the world of performance. Once you understand that all of this is playing out within you as it will, life is playing out within us as it will, then you take that understanding and then you jump into life from that perspective of freedom, knowing that this is playing out as it will. That is the essence of freedom, because you're in the game knowing. So I'm up at bat, knowing that this at bat, strikeout, home run, single up the middle, whatever it may be, is going to play out as it's going to play out. Bring it. That is the essence of freedom in the world, but not of the world. I am not a controlling entity in the world. I am in the world as freedom itself, as consciousness itself. You might even say as God itself.
So when I think that this is important to kind of dissect a little bit. So when I'm up at bat, and it's playing out. Like the swing is playing out. What I hear you saying is that, like, what is my personal responsibility as Ben up at the plate
Zero,
at bat?
zero.
I don't have a responsibility. I just stand there, but then I'll strike out if I'm not swinging the bat, if I'm not
No.
looking at the ball.
Well, you'll strike out if that's how life's going to play out, if how the movie is going to play out. That's what's going to happen. But the idea that Ben is responsible for swinging or missing or getting a hit or getting the right signal from his coach, you have no evidence of that.
Then
You,
why
you
does
have
the then why do I go to baseball practice in the batting cage and get my swing down? Like,
I can't answer in truth a why question. I can give you some opinions, but if you want to, but a why question
mhm.
in and of itself can never be answered truthfully, because a why question is assuming the very lie that we're calling out in this discussion. So a why question, why does that happen? That's assuming there's a subject and an object. So this happens because of this. So two things. In truth, there's separation.
Hmm.
So I can't, in truth, answer the why question. Now I can say you go up there because it's fun. You go up there because it's fun to be in the world as consciousness, that free. But those are just concessions. Those aren't real answers. It's essential to understand that the idea that you are a character named Ben, okay, that's fine. It's our conditioning. But then take that idea and then jump into the so-called dream as Ben, knowing that the dream is going to play out as it plays out. It's like an actor is gonna actor can't change the ending of the movie or the play. The actor is following the screenplay. Now that actor can give it his or her best shot, passion to the hilt, but ultimately the movie or the play is going to end up as it's going to end up, and the actor has no say over it. Okay, now that's just an analogy. I am not saying that this destiny is already written. I'm actually
Yeah.
saying destiny is life is being created now, and there's nothing you're going to do about that. There's nothing we can do about that. But knowing that, as you jump into the game, into the play, is the epitome of freedom, and freedom is another word for the true self.
So when I know that, what I feel, I'll just share like what I feel in hearing that and how I relate to that. It's like I show up in my life, go about, do my business, answer the phone, talk to Garrett, do all the things, and I am ultimately present, and I don't feel pressure like there's something that I, Ben, need to do. I am present with what is being done in me, through me, with me, around me, and I'm just kind of enjoying the ride that I sometimes feel like I'm controlling, but in
Mhm.
reality, I'm not.
Yes. So it brings up, yes. So it brings up a deeper question, even like, who are you? Are you Ben? And the and I would argue that you have no evidence that you are a separate person named Ben. Now you have been conditioned that that is who you are. You were given this name by your parents. You were given a desk at school. I always say if you played sports, you're giving a number on your back. And we are really brought up to be autonomous, separate entities. I was talking to a dear friend of mine named Vicky Kelly yesterday, and she has a new daughter, and her daughter B is like a year old, and she's having what is labeled as separation anxiety, because anytime Vicky's like goes out of the room, and the world is descending on my dear friend, telling her that she's got to do all these strategies to help B get over the separation anxiety. Now, Vicky and I have explored consciousness together, and she's like, just stop it, because there is no such thing as separation anxiety. And the only thing I'm going to do when B cries is I'm going to go and hug her and kiss her. I mean, she's got it. So, in my opinion, so right. So right. So, in other words, B understands that this separation thing isn't quite right. And anytime, I'm just kind of making this up from B's perspective, but anytime Vicky's not around, B is sensing the lie. So B is kind of, she's in her early stages of this conditioning that I am a separate entity, and she does not like it. And she doesn't like it. And the world will then tell Vicky, as it did to me when I was a parent, and to Liz, my wife, to go through all these methods. I remember there was a doctor named Ferber. The Ferber method Liz was reading about until she realized, like, this is just absurd. What is this guy? This guy sold 1 million books, and this is just nonsense. There's no way I'm doing that. I remember, you know. So then we tried. I remember sneaking into Ryan, my oldest son's room when he was a baby, and this is just funny. I just haven't thought of this in years. And he was a baby in his crib, and we decided we're going to close the door or whatever, and it was torture. And then I couldn't take it, like maybe 10 minutes of it. And I go into his room. This is in our apartment in West Patterson, and Ryan's on the floor of his bedroom. He somehow climbed out of his crib. Couldn't even stand up yet. And somehow he got out of his crib because he was making his way back to us. It was stunning. I remember he's in the middle of his floor. I called my wife. I said, "Come here. How did he get here?" Anyway, it was hilarious. So it's interesting that we are so programmed to individuality. Separation is true, that we even have parents giving the method to separate their children. I write about this in the book I have coming out this summer, about a story in a park where I actually walk past a mother teaching her son about independence. And unfortunately, I studied the situation. I didn't say anything, but I then wrote about it, and this same kind of thing is in the book. So anyway, we are convinced, programmed by very well-meaning parents, teachers, coaches, that personal responsibility and accountability and control is the key to success in life. And maybe it is, but I would question the idea of success in life to begin with. Just like I would question the idea of separation to begin with. It would have to be, just say it like this, buddy, like, and if this nothing rings true, just stop me, because sometimes I can go too quick on this. I've done it so many times, but here's what I would say we know to be true. Now, true is an interesting word, but true using words. So once you put something to words, it's really no longer true. But based on with words, and again, if something doesn't ring true, then just stop me. So you're kind of working for the audience here. Okay. So what we know, and you tell me if you agree, is that no object, much like the computer, no object has ever been found, located, experienced outside of the universe. So
I agree with that.
All objects appear, and some disappear, within the universe. You could say they arise and dissolve within this space we're calling the universe. Okay, you can also call that space consciousness or God. There's many words, and I don't really care what the words are. So that makes sense so far, yes?
That's a truth in my
Okay,
experience.
okay, me too. So that being the case, as you said 10 minutes ago, that would indicate that all things are one with the universe. You use that term one with, which is cool. So all things, because they can't be outside of the universe, nothing can jump in from the outside, nothing can jump out from the inside. Everything is within this universe, one with the universe. Wherever the universe goes, the object goes, or vice versa. It's they're one with each other. Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now I would I would then say, and again, you have to tell me if this lines up for you, that because no object can appear outside the universe ever, it's never happened, that all objects are made of the universe. So, in other words, even scientifically speaking, this hand is made of molecules, this hand is made of molecules, and the air between them is made of molecules. It's all friggin' molecules.
Yeah.
Okay, so all objects are made of the universe, even though it looks like this pen and this bottle of water are separate objects, and the air between them even are separate objects. They're all made of the universe, one with the universe.
Yeah.
Okay? Okay. So we have just, in a very simplistic demonstration, demonstrated that separation is an appearance or an illusion, not true. This appears to be a separate pen. This appears to be a separate jar, but they're all made of the space in which they appear. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, obviously, the question then, this begs the question then, who are you?
Universe
Because
stuff.
you cannot be a separate person named Ben. There is
Mystery
no,
Mr. Universe.
you are Mr. Universe. Good looking guy like you're Mr. Universe. Exactly. You're not the skinny runt that you've been trained to be, like those old commercials. That's true. There's some truth in that. You are the universe, and as I said before, all these objects are rising and falling within yourself. Even the idea that you are a person named Ben is an object that arises and falls within yourself. Okay, because
Yeah.
you know that idea has come and gone. That idea is not always with you. Sometimes you're clearly not Ben. When you're and athletes talk about this all the time. They're playing, they don't know themselves as the individual. They don't even know how the game even happened. They lose the sense that I am the body. They lose the idea or the belief that I am the body. So we had experiences of losing that idea in intimacy, perhaps in a walk in nature, perhaps when I'm lying on the floor with my dog, perhaps speaking to you right now.
Mm.
We lose the sense that I am a body, and you cannot be what you lose. You cannot be what comes and goes. So the point is, if not a separate self, who am I? I know that I experience these objects. I know that I know these objects. I know that I know my thoughts. I know my feelings. I know the sensation of water in my mouth. I know these things, but I am not a separate self. Who am I? I am the universe. I am consciousness. I am, and all objects are appearing within me, even a virus, even Anthony Fauci, using him for example, even Joe Biden, even someone that I detest.
Yeah.
He or she is arising and dissolving within me, made of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the answer to the big lie of separation. Knowing that, living from that understanding, remembering that as often as possible.
I
And
wouldn't worry I wouldn't worry about remembering or forgetting.
yeah,
I I,
okay,
I wouldn't
because it's
because
there. It's there.
yeah, you're going to wake up and you're going to remember, so to speak. It just live.
Would you say
like,
that would you say
live.
that life, in your experience, would you say that life is more pleasant when you remember this?
No,
No, that's not a rule
no,
or anything like that.
not even close. Actually, I would even argue that it could be the opposite. In other words, the journey back to source, the I am the universe, I am the whole, I am complete, I am the knower. Um, the journey back home is is the most arduous journey. If it's arduous, but it's not something. Um, speaking from my experience, that I would say I would not want. So I sometimes describe it like when I used to play competitive golf. A, Playing a competitive round of golf is 4.5 hours of sheer torture. I mean, it just is. It's not fun. However, I would never not want to do it. It's a weird thing. I used to say this about competitive golf before I even knew anything about this stuff. Like, it's just sheer, that's just no fun. You can't, I don't know. I mean, late, that's my experience, but I'm not doing it. And I would describe,
Because
I don't know. I can't answer that, but um, yeah, I would never not. So going back to the journey back home, back to who I truly am, your old belief systems, the old habits, your old um, uh, the, the old the things that you used to think were important, um, they will rear their ugly heads in an attempt, I would describe it, to pull you back back into the lie, so to speak. And that can be quite painful. That can be quite difficult. But once it hits you that, oh my God, I am not experiencing this world from the perspective of a guy named Garret. That's not happening. There's no turning back from that. There's literally, just like once you tee it up, there's no quitting. You got to post a score. Once you put the peg in the ground, no matter how good or bad you play, the score is going up on the board for the world to see. So, my father used to tell me that you shoot it, you post it. Like, that's it. That's competitive golf, and it's a beautiful thing, but not as beautiful as the journey back home, even though it at times can be excruciating. And I will tell you that over the last year, um, never in my experience has the journey been more excruciating. To watch what the world within me is going through is the greatest, excuse my French on this, the greatest mind fuck of all time. To know that this is uh, ego rearing back, trying to hold on, trying to keep control, try to keep us ignorant, trying to hold us in the lie, and to watch loved ones, human beings, suffer so much and be so duped by the lie is excruciating, buddy. It's excruciating. And um, however, it is part of the deal.
Yeah.
It's part of the deal. And I don't, this is not true. This is just how I see it. I would argue, though, that we are at that precipice where we're either going to wake up to the lie collectively, so to speak, or we're toast.
Yeah.
I mean, human beings are toast. However, to be clear, nothing that happens within me can harm me. Nothing that happens within consciousness will harm consciousness. And that's the saving grace. So either way, what I can promise everyone is we're going to be all right. But to get there, it's still, as I said, excruciating to a certain extent.
Yeah. Well, I think we're kind of arriving where I wanted to be. So I'm glad it's happening. Focusing on really that collective um, oomph, the collective inspiration spark that's going to move us, because all we are moving is, I don't I'm having a hard time finding my words that are going to align with my words are different than your words, so I'm having a my intellect is pulling, but in any case,
No, but
collectively coming
hang on, but
into, yeah,
but let me say something about what you just said. I do think that you can use whatever words you want. However, I think it's interesting that you bring that up. Just really quickly here, like
yeah,
part of the journey back home is to kind of clean up our words. And I think sometimes we can, in spiritual
yeah,
teachings, we're like, oh, just say it how you want to say it. Well, I get that. However, our words are designed to describe the lie, duality. So I think as we collectively, so to speak, kind of clean up the language, it will, this language of love, this language of a shared being, will become more prevalent. It's one of the reasons in my new book I didn't use my normal editor. I used someone, Joel Drasner, who is on this shared journey of consciousness with us, and he's also a great editor. So because I knew that cleaning up the language, I wanted to use someone who would appreciate that journey even in the language. And trust me, it's not easy.
yeah.
And we've got this for a while. But anyway, so
Words
so
are powerful.
yeah, it's very important, and we don't want to just say, okay, say it like that. But that's why I kind of stop. I stop you, and I stop students, and I stop myself, and I want you to do the same to me, because if we can get narrow in, so to speak, on the language of a shared being, we will be doing a great service. So sorry to interrupt you because you were on
Well,
a good.
you're back to exactly what my point was, is pointing us however we can, however makes most common sense in the moment, to awaken, if you will, to the shared beingness of reality. And in that, I know, is the answer to everything. Because when it all boils down, the one fundamental lie is this illusion of separation, or this misidentification of self outside of what's happening. And then here we are, we end up in war on terror, and war on domestic terror, and war on everything outside of ourselves, when in fact the answers to all of the problems that we're trying to solve are just understanding the interconnectedness and the shared nature of our places in the universe. And it's like, to me, it feels like just that understanding, like everything dissolves, all of the pain and suffering, um, maybe even all of the illness and disease, physically, and all of the infections and all the cases and all the things that we're worried about dissolve when we just take a step into the truth.
Yeah, it's well said, buddy. Really well said. Um, You see how quickly you clean up the language? So, you know, bringing it back to our world right now, when you talked about a war on this and a war on that, I mean, exactly. There, show me this separate entity. Show me this separate country, this separate person, this separate virus,
Yeah.
separate belief system that I have got to attack or I've got to resist. A big word, people, as if we're supposed to resist, as I've got to resist or I've got to attack. Show me where that is, and then we can have a discussion. So in other words, show me that using the virus, which is a weird word because it means so many different things, as you know better than anybody. Show me this respiratory droplet. Let's say it like that. Show me this respiratory droplet that exists outside of me, consciousness, that I am supposed to resist or I'm supposed to mask myself from or inoculate myself from. Show me where that is. And I can promise you, I don't know much, but I do know that you cannot show me a respiratory droplet that exists outside of me, that is not made of me, that is not known by me. Any respiratory droplet, whether it's from this guy, this animal, that animal, is a modulation within me. I cannot run from me. It's made of me. This is why we're spinning our wheels and trying to fix things, and we keep spinning our wheels because we have this fundamental misunderstanding that in this case, we're just talking about this example, the respiratory droplet or another person who spits a respiratory droplet exists outside of me. No, this is impossible. No, this is not. And what you then find is now you look from the basis of that understanding, you then say, well, what's going on here? And what you then jump into the world from the basis of that foundational understanding. And what do you find, which I never even explored until 10 months ago? What do you find? Oh my God, in truth, that respiratory droplet cannot even make me sick. That is a lie. There's no proof of it. Of course there's not. We already knew that spiritually, but then you'll find that, wow, that's actually a physical truth as well. Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Well,
And I found that in so many examples in my life, I can't even begin to tell you.
and back to kind of the beginning here, you sharing this, what I hear as just truth, and we've gone through the journey in understanding that it is in fact true. This lie of, or the truth is that we're one, the lie is that we're separate. And saying this once again back to the beginning is going to irk and offend people who are caught in this. And I'd like to. There was another post that you made this week, Garrett, that I thought was really brilliant, and I'll share it as well. If you need proof of the danger of trying to cure prejudice with prejudice, take a look at what's happening in America right now. Not until we understand that the diversity we see is illusory, that all whirlpools in the sea are made of the very same water, will all forms of prejudice dissolve. And you shared this on the MLK Day, and like there's this, once again, war on prejudice. I mean, how silly, like even in my human being Ben brain, I see the silliness, and then I take a step into the truth, and it's ultra silly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I don't, I mean, I'm going to say this because maybe it's just training, but I just habit or conditioning. But I am not saying that there's 1 ounce of okayness with prejudice. Like
Yeah.
there's not 1 ounce of okayness with that. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's a distortion. It's a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
It is ego on steroids. Okay. However, prejudice against the prejudice is still prejudice. And we are stuck in this politically correct world now where, sorry, but Biden it seems that Joe Biden is picking cabinet positions in order to not be prejudiced. And he's being prejudiced. Just sorry. I mean, the people are going to I get attacked for this all the time. Fine. Take a look at how we have been trying to right the wrong of prejudice for the past 100 years.
It's like
we are
this
stuck.
Freaking pendulum that swings and knocks us all over the place, and here we are trying to swing this pendulum when it's like we're pushing it. We're making the storm.
When I took a photography class somewhere along my schooling, I think I was a sophomore in high school or something. I wasn't very good at it, but I remember the teacher talking to us about making the pictures racial. You should make them racial, get all colors and even. I mean, this is 1978. I'm a sophomore in high school, so. And I was like, what? I gotta what? Make pictures racial? Like what? Why? Well, you got to make them racial. You want inclusion. I'm like, isn't that racial? Isn't it? So
can I just point my camera and shoot and see what's on the other side?
What am I doing? I'm a photographer. I'm not trying to program the world here. Like I'm not. It was very off then, and it was off to a bunch of us. We were like, this is just off. And I happened to grow up in an area that was very biracial, so to speak. It was like we're all looking at it like, what? We're good. We don't have to make it. We're good. We're good here. No problem. And I remember this summer during all these riots that were going on, this basketball player that I work with, this NBA player, he said to me, everyone's calling me up to see if I'm okay. And he goes, this is such bullshit. That's racist in itself that they're calling me up. I'm like, yeah, keep speaking. Keep saying it. We need more guys like you. And he thought it was like, why are you checking in with me? Because I'm black? You're kidding me, right? Like I was like, and he really said it well. But politically, the politically correctness was the opposite. The opposite. I was on so many Zoom calls with basketball teams and sport teams where the protocol was really quite insane. And I jumped off a lot of those calls. I just couldn't take it. I wasn't there to counter the narrative. Now, the at issue though, get right to the core of it. I look out and I'm now looking at the back of this building here and I see a parking lot. It's probably 15 cars. Okay. All those cars, well, I see a blue car, a gray car, a black car, another gray car, a white car, another gray car, a red truck. Okay. So I see a bunch of diversity out there in cars. Okay. So cars appear to be diverse. It's an appearance. But what are all the cars made of? We've already discussed it. Me, consciousness. They're made of the same essence. They share my being. Okay, they are one with me. Everything is made of the same essence, in truth. So you could say it like this: you see a mirage in the desert of water, but you go to touch it, it's all the desert, no water. Okay, all those cars, all these the appearance of diversity in cars is an illusion. It's not true. Now, why would I then promote what is not true in order to get to what's true? It's so crazy, diabolically backward. It's maddening when you really look at it. Because we are trying to fix the lie with the lie. And that is why we are stuck back in 1978 when I was a sophomore in high school, and here in 2021 with what's going on with Biden's cabinet. It's the same lie, and we will not fix the lie. The only thing that will bring us to love and peace and harmony is the recognition of our shared being, that the diversity we see is not true. It's an illusion. And only that, I would argue, will bring us back, will bring your marriage to the love you seek, will bring your family to the love you seek, will bring your community, your state, your country, and the world to the love that everyone is looking for. And if we keep promoting the lie, faking it, being politically correct, we will remain stuck in the lie. This goes for diversity. This goes for viruses. This goes for wars. This goes for a discussion between friends, a debate, or an argument even between friends. We can do that. We can debate something. We can go at it. We can even compete on the field. We could even play a physical sport. However, the essence of love and harmony, as I said, peace, is the understanding that the diversity we see is not true. Not true. And I see, the more I see that, I see my role is to call that out.
Yeah.
So that's why you would see me say something about Anthony Fauci blaming Trump for deaths. No, sorry, don't go there. You're out of line. I'm not blaming you for being out of line. You're out of line. Sorry, not true. Nope. Anthony Fauci and Trump, however, are modulations within me.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to kind of hone in and tie things up with some hope, maybe, because I know I don't know about you. I actually I feel like there is a little bit of a cynic that is in you, and I feel the same cynicism in me. Um, and at the same time, I also feel like this awakening, if you will, to the true nature of the shared beingness is really like programmed in us. Like it's programmed in us to have these insights, if you will, to the truth. And I think whatever the timeline of these insights is, I think that I know that I witness that collectively we are seeing the BS. We are seeing the BS. Some people, it also seems like, are really, diving deeper into the BS. But at the same time, there's a lot of people seeing the BS, and I feel like my responsibility, I don't know if that's the right word, but I feel like my place in it is to,
You're calling. So calling.
yeah, my calling is to point it out, call it out, and encourage, and in doing so, what I feel is like there's this permission that we all receive to see the truth. Like when one person, sees, points out the elephant in the clouds, and everyone's like, oh yeah, it kind of does look like an elephant up there in the clouds, and we kind of just like rise to the truth.
Well, I would describe it as we just did with it. It's a calling. Your number's been called, I like to say, and once your number's been called, there's just literally no turning back. And the world within will, as we discussed, will kick back at you. However, the world within is simply your own belief system, your old habit. They're simply a reflection of yourself and your old tendencies rearing their head, not wanting to go away. So you have to understand. So that's what's happening. And then there's somewhat of a process, you might say, of we succumb to that and we kind of drop down. We could say we wimp out and we kind of concede, and we don't want to go there for a time. Like I literally decided, uh, my birthday's in a month, and I said, I'm going to stay off Twitter, posting something on Twitter for a month. I literally said that to myself because to me, Twitter is such a cesspool. Like I just don't have, there's too much going on for me to engage in that. However, so I kind of, but in essence, really, that's just a kind of I would say a little wimp out. Like I just need because it shouldn't matter. But that's just something that I kind of said, okay, wait, let's just back off here a little bit. Um, anyway, buddy, the calling that you've recognized is to, and frankly, in your career choice, being a naturopathic physician, that it was clear that there was a calling back to source in you. It's always been your calling. I think that you've recently recognized that at the basis, what's at the hub of that calling, and it's the recognition of consciousness that you're interested in it. You're interested in it, and there's no turning back from that. I will tell you though that um, I think that it's very important right now. Just my opinion, it's very important right now to uh, call out the fraudulent activity that's going on in the world. I always think it's important to call out abuse and terror and bullying. And I have been criticized quite a bit from some spiritual communities, even from my own communities, even from students of mine for doing so. However, I can only call it as I see it. And um, I think the calling is to back to source, but it is never okay to it is never okay to abuse a modulation of consciousness. And what I mean by that is an animal, nature, or another person or a person. And um, perhaps I'm 58, so perhaps in 20 years or something, or whenever I'm old and whatever, I'll come to see that I should have just let it be. But I don't see it that way now. And I'm not trying to save anything though. I want to be clear. Like I'm not trying to save. I just think it's important to not follow people, um, to not do damage to the sea, so to speak. All the while knowing that it will play out as it will. So it's like going back to our discussion. In other words, like jump in the game, play the game with all your heart, all passion. Just keep in mind that this is going to play out as it will. And I think that if I could go back to my children, I think that if they sometimes ask me like, wow, how do you say these things and take all this heat and whatever? And I would say, well, I'm in the game and I just know it's going to play out as it will. So it doesn't matter, but I'll tell you, I just think I think that there's so much um, this is in 58 years, this is I've never seen such, and maybe it's been out there and I just never noticed it before, but I've never seen a bigger attempt to deceive people than is going on right now. And it's obvious something's off. I mean, it's obvious. And I think it's essential that we don't let it, we do what we can within the game, so to speak, to not let that happen.
Yeah. And it can't, I mean, it can't. Like, it's futile. The lie is futile. So,
The lie is futile. The lie cannot harm. Great. It's a great point. The lie cannot harm who you are, who we are. If this planet was to, if because of this, if this conflict resulted in a world war and we ended up nuking the earth and it blew up, the infinite and eternal space consciousness in which the earth appears will not be touched by the earth blowing up. And you are that infinite eternal consciousness, that space.
well, that's hopeful.
That's hope. That is the essence
Yeah.
of truth. So and truth will always release burden. Whereas we talked about personal responsibility before, that will increase burden. So truth will always release burden. And knowing that no matter what goes on here, consciousness will remain whole. Nothing can dent who you are, no matter what, is the essence of jumping back into the world, as we said before, and making your stand for truth, which is what you and I are going to do our darndest to right now. That's the point. But you have to first know that. In other words, it would be ridiculous to talk to a modulation of yourself, or another person, so to speak, who has no understanding of who she is or who he is, and expect that person to take this stand. I'm not blaming anyone. It's just impossible. That if that person does not know that she is infinite and eternal, then she's going to get a vaccine. She's going to do it. She's going to do it. And all we can do is keep pointing it out and hope she comes to us. Right?
Well, you
but also,
just brought up the V word, which, that's just one example of buying into what I hear you say, just buying into the lie, or, I mean, big can of worms or whatever. But
everyone, including this idea that I was a guy named Garret, everyone is conditioned to be a separate entity, and that's the nature of. We took this, I don't know, gazillion years ago. We had a fork, and one road was, I am infinite and eternal, I am God's infinite being, or something. Other road was, I am Garret. And we took I am Garret. We went that way. So this discussion is we're turning around. You and I are turning around. We're in this car and we're turning around. We're heading back to this juncture. And then when we get there, we're going this way. We're backtracking, so to speak. We're not evolving. We're involving. We're going the other way, devolving, whatever the word is. We're going the other way. We're backtracking from that so-called wrong turn. And we're going to take as many modulations within us that we can get in this car. And we're going to keep going. And we're going to go, and the people are going to jump on, and they're going to jump on, they're going to jump on. Jesus is really driving this car. We're not. We're just on it too. And we're just going. And we're just going. And we're going to make it back there. And if this earth blows up, we're going this way. Nothing's going to change. And I promise you, like, that is the essence of the message, whether it's COVID-19 or whether it's me talking to an athlete who's got a hockey game tonight or something, playing a golf tournament, whatever. It's the same thing. And just jump on this car, and we're headed backward. We're heading back to that fork in the road.
Yeah, cool. I feel it. Well, it's been a good one, and I think we unpacked a lot. I feel like this was kind of maybe a lot of newness for a lot of people to digest and like to integrate, to feel, to know. And maybe we can pick it back up and run with some of this stuff another time because it's been a lot of fun. It's always good to focus on this truth and you know, makes me feel hopeful. So in any
I would
case,
say that. I would say that. Yeah, if anyone's watching, whatever, like, feel free to just ask us questions. Like, it's really important. We're just shooting the shit here, but I think it's important, like, that we're available for people who might ask questions. So just,
yeah,
I don't even know you'll figure all that out, but I think it's important, like, because you're right. There's a lot of stuff thrown out here in this initial call. Hopefully, as you said, we'll have more. But um, if anyone has any questions about anything, just
leave
send
a
me a
comment.
message.
Leave a comment, send a message,
Oh, good,
get
good,
a
good,
hold of
good.
us, whatever. DM,
Yeah,
PM, email, whatever. I don't know.
it's really important. Like, because I want to be clear. Like, I don't want anyone to believe what I'm saying here. I want it to be an exploration,
Yeah,
and I want, ask questions and really drill down.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so it's really
yeah.
important.
Experience it, live it, feel it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, G.
All right,
Thanks for your time, man. And
all right, buddy.
thanks, everyone. Peace and love. Till
See you,
next
buddy.
time.
Bye.
Take
Bye.
care.
Cool. Bye.
All right. We're off the air. And I
All
guess
right,
I got
cool.
to run. I got some things to do. But thanks.
Oh, go. All right, go. We'll talk.
Yeah.
We can
Be
do
in
it.
touch.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe we'll do it next week. Let's see what kind of feedback you get. It'll be
Cool.
interesting.
We'll see. Yeah. Thanks again. And yeah, I'll like tag you or something if you want to share it or whatever. But
Okay,
be in
cool.
touch.
All right, buddy. See you. Bye.
Adios.